Hi, everyone online. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to share my screen so you can see our presentation.
Look at this stuff out of your day.
Okay.
Do the opposite. Yeah, I'll just hang up
There we go. Oh, you can, we actually have the notes screen, which I like. Oh, where you can see your notes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Should we get started?
Sure, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for having us today.
Thank you.
As you all know, we're here to talk about falls, and this is actually a really nice sized group for conversation. So please just jump in anytime. I'm sure that you all will have some great advice to share with each other too. So we just wanted to introduce ourselves really quick. So I'm Zera. I'm an occupational therapist. I'm the founder of Moxie OT. Has anybody heard of occupational therapy before?
Yes.
Yeah, how would anyone want to try to describe it?
I mean, Howard had it when he got out of the hospital,
Okay,
and Medicare actually does provide it for like 6 weeks.
yes,
So, I mean, the particular woman that came did a variety of different, and wasn't physical exercise.
right.
She, like, my granddaughter gave her, it was really nice, a bunch of pictures of everybody in our family, and she put them on a ring so that, you know, he reminds himself who everybody is. Yeah, and then she gave him a lot of different puzzles to do and word
Yeah.
things too.
That's a great example of that OT. So I like to say that OT helps people do the things they need to do and want to do,
Yeah.
right? So if you want to be able to conversate with your family and remember their names, that's a great example. So we work on not only physical impairments, but cognitive impairments and vision impairments. But the goal is so that you can do the things that you want to do. Like one of my favorites was, well, I was just talking about, I got to help a patient play golf. I just took a patient to the tennis court the other day. So whatever it is in your day. And so sometimes as we age and our bodies change, things that we have to do, like get dressed in the morning, get difficult, or we kind of get away from doing things that we really care about. So that's kind of where OT is there to help. I also wanted to just kind of let you get to know me as a person a little bit more. So I just wanted to share some of my favorite things to do. And I love anything outside. So I'm so excited about this weather today. But in the winter, I'm hiking or I'm skiing. In the summer, I'm kayaking, or I can sit on the beach for the rest of my life. So that's a little bit about me.
All right, I'm Dan Lankenow. I'm co-founder of Allied Therapy Partners. So we are a mobile physical therapy company. So we can come to your home. You don't need to be homebound. It's open to everyone. And I believe Sarah
Yes,
does the same
thank
thing
you.
as well. So that's a really nice benefit, and it is covered by Medicare just the same as if you were to go into a clinic. So we specialize in a few different things. We actually do pediatrics as well. We do geriatrics, and not myself, but my partner and another therapist that works for us do pelvic health. So things like incontinence, pain during intercourse, low back pain, other sources of pain that really kind of haven't been able to be addressed by anything else. And this might be the missing piece of the puzzle. So pelvic health is a really big growing field that is really great. I mean, they're working miracles, honestly. I mean, really, really amazing stuff. So physical therapy, has anyone had physical therapy before? Okay, we got a few. Does anybody want to take a stab at a definition or kind of just describe what physical therapy means to you?
Moving so that you can move, your joints can move.
Yeah,
And being sure to keep using them.
sure.
Working to undo damage to, well, in my case, the knees and the structure surrounding the knees,
Yeah,
and then later on, plantar fasciitis.
okay.
Just getting on exercise machines or using weights attached to your legs or whatever, and just a lot of repetitive exercise,
Yeah.
resistance exercise and stretching.
Sure. Hopefully repetitive is okay, hopefully not boring, right? So sometimes things need to be repetitive to get the change that we're looking for. But yeah, so we deal with a lot of different things. One might be injuries, another could be balance. Even just mobility issues. So you don't have to have a specific impairment or an injury to use physical therapy. Just if it's gotten more difficult to get around and you'd like to be a little bit more mobile, a little bit more independent. We can also help with the prescription of assistive devices like canes, walkers, things like that. And I like to let everybody know that it is covered by Medicare. It is open to everybody and you don't have to be afraid to use it. Medicare is pretty good. They cover 80%. And then if you have a supplement, it usually covers the other 20%. So it's a really affordable thing. If you met your deductible, it might be no cost at all. And there's no age limit on physical therapy. My current oldest patient I've ever had, and I'm seeing her now, 101 years old.
Whoa.
So she was walking up until about a year and a half ago. She had had a previous fall. She fractured her hip, had surgery, and she was walking after that. She lives alone, but has a caregiver that comes in. And one day, this is according to her family, one day she just stopped walking and couldn't walk again. And nobody really knew why. She was referred to me by a local doctor here and having some complications probably with that surgery down the road, may have had a few more degenerative changes in her knee. But that's not stopping us. I mean, there was a Mother's Day brunch that they just hosted for mothers over 100 years old. 110 was the oldest mother in attendance. So I'm like, this woman has the ability to walk again. She might have a lot more years left. So let's make them the best years possible. So that's what we're doing there. So physical therapy can help with a variety of things.
You need to get a referral from your doctor first.
So for physical therapy in Illinois, it's a direct
Yeah.
access state. For Medicare, it helps us a lot if you do have a referral first.
Okay.
We can come and do the initial evaluation, which then we submit to your physician to sign off of, and that acts as a referral.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be able to proceed with treatment until after that. If we had the referral already, we could do the evaluation and then be treating the next day. So it does help, but it's not 100% necessary. So yeah, any questions so far? Sure, go right ahead.
There's a limit to the course of the therapy, right?
So yearly, there used to be a cap for Medicare. What was, I think, $2,600 or something like that a year. They've removed that cap. There's no longer a cap, but they start kind of looking a little bit deeper into, is this really necessary? What we do has to be defined as medically necessary. So it can't be just personal training and things like that. You might reach a point where, you're good. We've gotten you to a point where you're comfortable with your home exercise program, you're following through, things are getting better. And at that point, we might say, okay, let's take a little break here. And we might continue with maintenance, so we could check in every now and then, or we'll do what's called like episodic care. So we address that certain impairment that you have. We get you independent with the home exercise plan, and hopefully you can continue with that. Now, a month or two down the road, if things have gotten worse or whatever, we can come back, do another evaluation and start up again. But there is a threshold now. It's no longer a cap. It's a threshold that they kind of start looking a little bit closer to see, is this medically necessary? And if so, they might recoup the reimbursement. So it gets a little iffy over a certain amount, but there was a lawsuit against Medicare that determined that maintenance therapy is acceptable. So you don't have to get better. You could just be working on maintaining the function that you have. So yeah, so there's no longer a hard cap. It's not, you have a certain number of visits. They just look a little bit deeper, and we just have to provide very good justification that our services are needed.
And I would say that companies like Dan's and mine, where we're a small company, we have a lot of control over what happens. We're a little bit more likely to provide that really client-centered care, and also really understand how to justify that need to Medicare over, if we need to go over that threshold.
Right.
Versus the larger systems, they've got a lot of therapists to manage, and they may have had some problems with that documentation not being significant enough. And so they're sort of not willing to see folks over that threshold. And we have a little bit more control over making that clinical decision on whether or not it's justified for this person, and I can really document why.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
Are you flexible with scheduling?
Absolutely, yeah. So for us being mobile, I'll admit that scheduling is the most difficult part, because we see a patient in their home and then we have to move on to the next patient. So hopefully they're somewhat close. So we do like to keep things If possible, kind of the same time every week, but we can certainly be flexible, and if we knew that ahead of time, like going into it, we could work with that, yeah. And to Sarah's point, I can't speak for like Athletico or ATI, but they might have a corporate policy where they just don't treat over that threshold now, because Medicare recipients will never be responsible for that cost, but as therapists, as companies, we can get that money taken back away. So they might not be willing to accept that risk to treat a patient above that threshold, whereas we sometimes will.
Well,
You know, there's a limit to certain things, but we're much more willing to do that again because we think our services are valuable and we can justify them.
Those are great questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
And, I know Dan has to run out, after our meeting, but I can stick around and answer more questions about Medicare or things like that. So, as we kind of get into thinking about falls, I wanted to ask you to think about, I'm just gonna read these out loud and you can kind of think about them. And then if anyone has anything to share with the group. How have falls among older adults affected you? Have you had a fall? Has somebody else in your family or your community had a fall? What kind of life-changing events occurred because of that fall? Sometimes falls really impact what your life looks like, right? And is there anything that could have prevented that fall? So does that kind of stimulate any thoughts for anybody about something that they've experienced or they've seen somebody else experience?
You don't walk down the stairs.
Okay,
In our house, we have 19 stairs
Wow.
from the third floor to the second floor in our condo. But fortunately, we have an elevator, so Howard can
Okay.
just walk out in the hall from the third floor, take the elevator down to the second floor. So after
Right.
he fell about 3 years ago, he didn't walk down the stairs
Yeah.
anymore.
yeah, so that's a good example of, that did change some of how you live your life,
Yeah.
right? It's
Right.
maybe it feels a little cumbersome to have to go out to the elevator,
Well, Couple
Right.
feet.
but you're also learning from that experience and preventing future falls. I love that, thanks. Anything else you wanted to share? Maybe someone they know that fell? It's so funny, my sister-in-law, so she's younger than me, but she fell on stairs.
Downstairs.
And so and she had a significant break in her leg. She was off work for, I don't even know how many months. So, she's sort of super aware of falls and she's always on top of my parents about making sure their home is safe and stuff. Did you have something?
So I just want to say, yeah, with falls, it can certainly lead to kind of like a cascade of events. So if you have a fall, and I don't want this to be scare tactics by any means, I'm just talking about what typically happens, why it's so important to do the things to avoid that. So it can lead to a fracture. As it says here, more than 95% hip fractures are due to falls. So that's a pretty shocking statistic. That's a lot. And when someone falls, when someone fractures or breaks a bone, they're not as active, right? You can't get around as well, become more sedentary, and that can lead to other conditions. And it's just usually the kind of this downward spiral if you don't take the right intervention at the right time. So we want to avoid the falls, and if we do have a fall, we want to get back to activity as soon as possible and really, try to build your cardiovascular system back up again, get active again, get back out in the community, keep doing the things that you enjoy.
Yeah, because I think that that's a really important point, is that actually having had a fall is your number one predictor of falling in the future, right? So even if it feels like it's a really one-time spontaneous event, that might be a good scenario for OT or PT to come in and kind of help problem solve around, well, was it a muscle strength issue, or was it something about the environment, and kind of problem solving that to prevent a fall in the future. And then also, once we have a fear of falling, so maybe it's just that I'm becoming aware of changes in my body and I'm getting worried about falls, or maybe I had a fall and I'm afraid I'm going to fall again, that actually also predisposes us to more falls. Because why do you think that is?
I'll give you a great example. My first job, I worked at the University of Illinois, and I had to walk from one medical center building to the next. And every day I thought, I'm gonna fall down those stairs. I would
Yeah.
say that to myself. And one day I did fall down those, I was 20 years old, so
Sure.
it didn't
Yeah.
matter so much, but it's like you can precondition your mind.
So sometimes
To
that's
prepare
it,
for it.
right? You've kind of like convinced yourself it's going to
Yeah.
happen. Any other ideas about why fear of falling might increase your risk of falls?
Well, I'm kind of brave and I try to walk around the house because I know where everything is and where I can touch something. But sometimes I scare myself as I walk across the room and I could fall.
Yeah,
And I think I need to not be as confident as I am. I have to, because I realize if you break something at this age, it takes longer to heal.
right. How do we mitigate that risk, right? And we're gonna talk a lot about that today because actually, I love that you are so mobile, right? Because actually what often happens for folks is they get so afraid of falling, they stop moving. So then their muscles become weaker, they get stiffer, now they've increased their risk of falls even more, right? So how do can you work with a PT to make sure that your strength and your balance is as best as it can be? Can you work with an OT to modify your home to make sure it's as safe as it can be? And so that's, the great news is that interventions that improve balance and strength and home safety actually have been proven to prevent falls. And so that's why we're here today. Anything else? No. All right, so this is actually the CDC's assessment. Sorry, it's kind of small, but I'm going to read it out loud for your risk of falling. So I'm just going to read these out loud and just kind of tick off in your head if you say yes to any of them. Okay, so I've fallen in the past year. Okay, so remembering we already talked about people who've fallen once are likely to fall again, statistically. I use or have been advised to use a cane or a walker to get around safely. That means that somebody, likely a physical therapist, has identified that you probably are at a risk of falling. Sometimes I feel unsteady when I'm walking. Okay, so unsteadiness or needing support is an indicator of decreased balance. So, okay. I'm worried about falling. We talked about how that fear of falling actually increases our risk. I need to push with my hands to stand up from a chair, right? So that's an indicator of decreased leg muscle strength. I have some trouble stepping up onto a curb. That's another indicator of muscle strength or decreased strength. I often have to rush to the toilet. So they've found that statistically, especially at night, if you're rushing to the toilet, you're at a higher risk for falls. And we're going to talk about that some more, but I think that makes sense, right? Because you're probably not thinking about, did I grab my cane or did I turn the light on if you're rushing to the toilet, right? So you're more likely to fall. Lost my spot. I have lost some feeling in my feet. Okay, so not being able to feel if your feet are on that curb or where they are in space, it's going to increase your risk of falling. I take medicine that sometimes makes me feel lightheaded or more tired than usual. Okay, so those kind of side effects from medication sometimes increase your risk of falling. Another one is medicine to help you sleep or improve your mood. And then the final one is I often feel sad or depressed. So it's interesting that symptoms of depression, like not feeling well or feeling slowed down, have actually been linked to falls. So reasons to talk to your doctor if any of those last three came up. So actually, if you said yes to number one, I've fallen in the past year, or to 4 total, you are at a risk for falling. Okay, so you might want to talk to your doctor or talk to one of us after the class. Did that bring up, does anyone have any questions about that? Or did anyone say yes to any of those that they'd be willing to share with the group? It's kind of personal. Let me see if I had any other notes I wanted to say about that. Oh, come on.
So I was going to touch on something that Sarah said on the last slide. So the falling being the greatest predictor of future falls. When I first heard that, we learned that in school. It's something that they filled in us. I'm like, yeah, of course. Like if I ate a cheeseburger and I like a cheeseburger, I'm gonna eat another cheeseburger later on in my life. I think a lot of people explain away that first fall.
Mhm.
Oh, there was a loose rug, I would have been fine if it wasn't there, or, oh, I slipped on a patch of ice, that's why. It wasn't anything with me, well, the loose rug was a risk factor that you hadn't identified. So that's where OT can come in. Maybe you slipped on a patch of ice because you couldn't react quickly enough, you weren't strong enough. Maybe your shoes weren't the right shoes to be wearing, in those conditions, or the tread had worn away. So there's always a reason that it happened, right? It's not just a freak accident. There's usually something that could have mitigated the risk or prevented it completely. So really take to heart, if it has happened, or somebody that has happened, don't just explain it away and think this isn't going to happen again.
So now Dan's gonna talk to us about some of the physical changes that can happen.
All right, so, this kind of got switched together, but it says, if you
Sorry.
don't use it, you'll lose it, right? So that really is true. So changes in strength, changes in balance, changes in flexibility, and changes in bone density all support that if you don't use it, you lose it. So the body is very lazy or efficient, however you want to put it. It's basically only going to do what it needs to do. We're not all walking around looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger because we don't need to lift crazy heavy weights every day. So it wants, from an energy standpoint, it wants to just do and exist for exactly what it needs to do. So with those strength changes, if you're not moving around as much, if you're not lifting things, bending down, standing up and down from a chair, walking around even, then your body sees that and says, how can I be more efficient? I don't want to have to go get more food and feed my body for these big muscles that I'm not using. So the muscles shrink and you get weaker. So that's a really, really important thing to consider with those changes in strength. Same thing for bone density. So bone loss is kind of a natural process with aging, but there's things that we can do to help slow that down and help increase bone density, especially for females. Vitamin D is huge. Everyone should be taking that, of course, if it doesn't conflict with medication and everything like that, but that's really great. But another thing, those bones respond to the stimulus that you give them, just like muscles. So they're not going to be as dense if they don't normally have to handle heavy loads. So with muscles, they move the body, bones support everything. So you want to load your bones, and how you do that is through exercise and weight bearing, and it doesn't have to be, deadlifting or squatting 1,000 pounds. It could be going for walks regularly, or, participating in some type of resistance training. It's going to strengthen your muscles and it's going to increase your bone density. Changes in balance and changes in flexibility, same thing. With the flexibility, kind of if you're just not moving through those ranges of motion that you used to, and it could be because you're not comfortable doing that. Maybe you don't want to bend down to pick something up from the floor because you don't feel like you can get back up again. If you're not taking your body through that range of motion, things can get tight. You can lose flexibility. The balance, that can be a lot of different factors, but again, kind of part of the natural aging process is decrease in balance. And those are all things that we can work on, we can practice and get better.
And can anybody do that move? I know I got.
Yeah, for sure.
That's Photoshop.
It is not, it's not. She's a real gymnast. I know I should have included her name, but she is a real gymnast, yeah.
She's got.
She looks like she's not even working hard, right?
She's just
right.
happy.
Yeah,
She does that every day of her life.
she's loving it.
Yeah, I'll provide the name of that person. That is a legitimate real person that did gymnastics at that age. So changes in walking, things like decreased speed. Maybe you're not picking up your feet as high as you used to. So you may be at more risk for tripping over something. Needing that assistive device. If you've had an injury over time, a lot of people think that an assistive device is taking away independence. I look at it as giving independence because you're able to move around better than you were before without it, right? It's enabling you to live your life more and move more. Vision changes, so things like depth perception, decreased vision, those all can factor in. I think we'll get into that a little bit more later. I was going to share a personal story with that. My grandmother, again, talking about the assistive devices and depth perception. She had several eye surgeries, so she could really only see out of one eye, which really affects your depth perception. And she had several falls because she would come up on a curb or even an incline that wasn't painted or striped. And she had no idea. She thought it was flat ground. And she would go to step on there thinking it's flat ground. Your body is prepared to step on flat ground. Kind of like if you think you're gonna drink milk and you drink orange juice. It's a huge shock. Your body's not ready for it. So she wasn't able to respond and she fell. So I really encouraged her to get a rolling walker because her balance wasn't that bad, but the vision was the biggest part. And I said, this walker is gonna alert you to what's in front of you. It's gonna hit that incline or that bump before you do, and then you can take a moment and react. Because she used to walk all around her neighborhood, and she, again, this fear of falling. She had stopped walking around her neighborhood. She stopped exercising. So cardiovascular fitness was going down. She was putting on a little bit more weight, which she didn't like. And that really, she got one and she started walking again because that gave her the confidence that I'm not gonna trip and fall. Because what if I'm blocks away from my house and I fall and I can't get back? So that really helped her just to increase her activity level and just be more mobile again. Problems with feet. So neuropathy is one. So that's basically having decreased sensation in your feet. I kind of go back to the ice thing. Like if you were to walk on regular ground, you walk a certain way. If you're walking on ice, your whole body kind of reacts a certain different way, right? You kind of prepare for that. If you're not able to discriminate between surfaces, whether it's slippery or soft or hard, your body kind of doesn't know how. It's just going to be a surprise when it happens. So that's kind of where that neuropathy piece comes in. If you don't have neuropathy, if your foot has ever fallen asleep and you've tried to walk, that's pretty much how hard it is. Another thing that can come into play is proper footwear. And I know a lot of people like to wear skinnier toe box shoes, which over time can lead to bunions and that big toe kind of going inward. That big toe plays a huge role in balance. So even that can decrease your balance, just having, your toes kind of going in a little bit. And those are things that, yes, surgical intervention can help, but there's things that you can do through physical therapy to improve that as well. And then low blood pressure. So low blood pressure in general but has anybody ever heard of orthostatic hypotension? Does that ring a bell to anyone? Or has anybody ever gotten from you? Okay, do you want to describe the symptoms of it at all, or?
But just when laying down and sitting down, getting up quickly, it's like dizziness.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, you may have normal blood pressure majority of the time. When you move from laying down or a sitting position, the blood is pooled in the lower half of your body. You get up, your heart has to work a lot harder to drive that blood back up into your brain. If it can't do that quick enough, if you have heart problems, if you have vascular problems, there's a lot of things that can lead to this, then you can get that temporary drop in blood pressure, which then can make you dizzy and can result in a fall. So definitely if you've experienced this lightheaded dizziness after laying down and sitting up, or even sitting up or standing up from a chair, definitely mention it to your doctor because it could be orthostatic hypotension, which could be medication, could help it out. And then also exercise, hydration, and a number of other things. So really important to address that. Don't just.
Question, do you like that rolling walker better than a cane?
It really depends on the situation. And that's where, like, during a physical therapy evaluation, and I think OT does
Determine that.
it helps determine that as well, because I would want somebody to have the least amount of support that is appropriate. So I wouldn't want to over prescribe something cumbersome that they then have to drag around if they don't truly need it. So it really depends on the situation. And sometimes some people are good with a cane inside the home where everything's familiar and they've had someone help them clear the clutter and make sure there's no tripping hazards. But then out in the community where it's more unpredictable, a rolling walker or even just a standard walker or a front wheel walker might be more
But
appropriate.
the rollator can be really nice because you can take breaks wherever you are,
Yeah.
right? So I think there are some folks that maybe balance is less of their concern, but taking a rest break so that I can still walk, along Lakeshore Drive or whatever. I guess not along the drive. But exactly. Yeah. So, it's kind of like, that's where that client centeredness of really helping the client figure out what works best for them is helpful.
Yeah. I just have a comment. Before my husband retired, a lot of his practice was geriatric, and I helped him at the office. I'm a nurse. And so I would test the urine just about everyone is dehydrated.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, your urine should not look yellow. It's such an easy indicator of,
Right.
dehydration.
Yeah,
As people age, they lose their sense of thirst and,
Well, and they're worried about running to the restroom and, I mean, I have low blood pressure naturally, and every morning when I do yoga, I experience that orthostatic hypotension, so I have to like get up and chug water before I can exercise, so it's, yeah, something definitely that we have to figure out how to build into our daily routines.
right. So, and then the reason that, again, multiple reasons why hydration is important, but you want all of those electrolytes. It's not just Gatorade, it's not just for athletes. Your body needs the proper amount of electrolytes just to function on a cellular level. And then not being properly hydrated can decrease blood volume as well. So if you don't have as much blood in your body, blood pressure is going to go down, and then you're more prone to that orthostatic hypotension, that drop in blood pressure. All right, there's probably an exhaustive list of things that could lead to falls, but just some common things: Parkinson's, MS, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, arthritis. So movement disorders, diabetes, again, that goes along with the neuropathy in the feet.
Or the vision.
Vision as well, yeah. Another personal story involving my grandmother as well. I wanted to do like a quick plug for anybody that has decreased sensation in their feet to do daily foot checks. So making sure that you don't have any wounds on the bottom of your feet. People with diabetes also have blood flow issues and can't heal as well. So not only might you might not feel that you have a wound, you're gonna have a lower blood flow to that. It's not gonna heal as well, might develop infection. My grandmother had neuropathy in her feet. She was kind of just trimming like a corn at home, went too deep and ended up in the hospital, got an infection, had to have her foot amputated, ultimately got complications with pneumonia, and that's how she passed away.
But people who have diabetes don't even feel it, because
Right,
I
so
had a
that's
friend
why
that
it's-
that's how she died,
Yep.
because she never knew that she had those wounds on. the
Exactly. So it's important, have a hand mirror, check the bottom of your foot. If you don't have the flexibility to go like that, put the mirror on the ground and put your foot over it. Have somebody else check it. It's just so important because it's, my grandma had other health issues, but I think she had a lot of years left in her if that hadn't happened. And what a silly way to go, just trimming a corn at home and then that's it, so really important to just check in, make sure, any kind of wound, really, anything abnormal on your body that you see that doesn't look like it belongs there, please get it checked out, please.
And I'm sorry things are getting cut off on the screen. We can see them here. I don't know, it's just kind of a translation issue happening.
All right, so this is one of the tests that we can do to determine if someone is at increased risk for falls. So if anyone wants to participate in that, we're gonna have a little active test here. So if you're able, we're going to do 30 seconds, as many times as you can stand up and then sit down from your chair. So we're gonna need to pull it away from the table a little bit, just so you have room to move.
Want to try it? Pull your chair back.
And then I've got the little chart there.
Pull your chair back.
Sitting down.
So you're gonna have to count your own time. So in the picture, the official test does show the arms across your chest like that. But I want everybody to be safe. I want you to, if this is gonna be something that would cause you to have a fall, we want to avoid falls, right? So if you don't feel confident in doing this at all, totally fine. If you feel like you need to use your hands to get up, totally fine as well. So you're gonna keep track of the amount of times that you're able to stand up and sit down. And I'll get my timer out. We're gonna do this in
Why don't you
30
just
seconds,
stand up and
okay?
sit down.
So when everybody's ready, we're gonna start in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So count the number of times.
Push up if you need to.
Yep, yeah. If you can't do it with the arms across the chest, that's okay. And let's do it safely.
Make sure you come all the way up.
There we go. You guys are doing great. We got an active group here today. All right.
30 seconds is longer than you think.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. All right, take a good rest here. All right, so we'll go through the results.
Did that go?
So I saw a little, few half standing there, so keep that in mind of your number. This is supposed to, if we did this on a one-on-one thing, we'd really make sure this was every
So
time
it
we
should
stood
be
up. It would be
totally
all-
standing.
Totally
Yeah.
all the way up,
Yeah.
yeah.
A few cheats in there, I know.
But you guys put forth a lot of effort. That was really great. So, there's different age ranges and different norms. So we'll just start in the 65 to 69 range. So for men, if you were less than 12 times and women less than 11 times in that 30 seconds, you'd be at a higher risk for falls. 70 to 74, men under 12, women under 10, higher risk for falls. 75 to 79, under 11 for men, under 10 for women, again, higher risk for falls. 80 to 84, under 10 for men, under 9 for women. We'll keep going 2 more. I don't know if we have anybody above that in this room. Okay. 80 to 80, I'm sorry, 85 to 89, under 8, for both men and women, higher risk for falls. And then 90 to 94, they're cutting you a lot of slack here. I think that you guys by this age are going to do a little bit better than this, but men under 7 and women only under 4, then you're at a higher risk for falls.
You did pretty good.
So everybody was moving really, really well. If we were to do this in a clinical one-on-one setting, we would make sure every single one of those was all the way up, except for the last one. You get credit if you get halfway up on the last one. So, yeah, so anybody, I think you probably all got above those numbers if we're moving pretty fast there. But a good thing to know, a simple, easy test, and it's just, this is supported by research that if you are below those numbers, you're going to be at a higher risk for fall. So that tells us about balance, that tells us about strength, a lot of different factors come into being able to do that many repetitions in that amount of time.
So that's something you can do at home too. And
Yeah.
Can't do that many, but I can't do that many, but I don't have any toes.
Okay,
I only got one.
yeah,
I don't have any big toes.
okay,
So
so,
I don't have any balance.
right,
I need that. I could never do that.
sure. So you could probably have told us at the beginning, hey, I don't need to do that test. I already know I'm at a higher risk for fall. And that's
Well,
totally okay.
But
We can still
I need
decrease
to
that
do-
risk.
I know I need to build up muscles like in my legs.
Yeah.
To help me because they're weak.
Sure. Well, and just because you are missing toes doesn't mean that you can't improve other
Oh,
areas of your
no.
body. So there's always something that you can do. With me, I'm working on the body, helping the body get stronger. Sarah, helping you identify all of those things around your home and personal factors that might, lead to those future falls. Another test that we have here is the 4-stage balance test. So the 4-stage balance test, these are footprints here. So if you can't do one, you do not pass go. You don't go on to the next one. So the first one is just standing up with both feet together. So just side by side. So if anybody wants to try this right now, they certainly can. So standing up, feet together. And we're going to stay here for 10 seconds.
put them together. Put your
Feet together, you have no space in between, basically
feet
just even
together.
with each other.
like this, huh? Not together.
Looks like everybody's doing pretty good. Good, 10 seconds there. The next one we're gonna do, place the instep of one foot, so it is touching the big toe of the other foot. So if these are feet, you're kind of going like that. So it's not quite a heel toe, but you're kind of narrowing your stance a little bit. And again, we're gonna hang out here for 10 seconds.
Look like this.
And if you can't do it, that's perfectly okay. That
Like
just
this.
gives us some information that, you know what, we need to work on balance. We might be at a higher risk for falls.
Oh, so great.
Good, all right. This one is it's the next level. We're getting a little trickier here. And if you can't do it, if you don't feel comfortable, please.
No
Yeah.
calls in the room
Right.
today. Yeah, call Dan later.
We're giving a class about fall prevention. We don't want to encourage falls here. So this is gonna be heel toe. So one foot in front of the other. If you don't feel confident, please don't attempt it.
Make sure your whole foot is on the floor. You're not standing on your foot.
Yeah, so just one right, like you're walking a tightrope, one right in front of the other.
Yeah. if
I don't
you-
know how many people
if-
have
if
walked
this
tight ropes in here before, but
And if this is kind of hard, we ask that you do sit down. so
Yeah.
you're not-
yeah, so go ahead and have a seat. So especially if we didn't make it to number 3, that tells us big increased risk for falls. There's something that we need to work on here. The last one, I think we might skip the last one,
Yeah,
but it's
let's
standing on
skip
one foot. If you're super confident, great. If you really want to try it, if you think you can, go right ahead, standing on one foot for 10 seconds.
Don't close your eyes. Right, it's always amazing how much vision impacts your balance.
Yeah.
Right, like in yoga, they always tell me like, okay, now you can try to close your eyes and then I fall.
Yeah.
All right, that was far past 10 seconds. So great job, everybody. So those are just things that kind of progress a little bit in difficulty in that balance and just show us, is there something we need to work on? There's nothing wrong if you couldn't make it past. There's nothing bad about that. It just shows us, hey, there's work to do. All right, so we already got you up and moving. We're gonna do a few exercises again. If you feel comfortable participating, if you'd like to participate, please do. For this, I'll have you stand behind your chair. We might push the chairs kind of into the table, and then you're gonna use that chair for support. If you want to do it at the rollator instead, you certainly can. Just wanted to have a support
Stand up, hon.
surface.
Stand up. Get behind the chair.
What?
Get behind the chair. Stand behind it.
What?
Stand behind the chair so you can hold on. to it.
I want to be able to run around.
So the first one that we're gonna do once everybody gets settled is heel raises. So that's basically just going up and down on your tiptoes. So we'll do that 10 times in a row.
Stand behind the chair. Here.
You know, what, maybe he could just stand and hold his cane.
Going up and down 10 times in a row,
Stand here.
and you're really gonna feel that in your calf muscles. Good job.
Okay, good. Okay.
If you wanna go for more than 10,
Now pick your feet.
feel
up.
free.
Yeah, good. That's it. Great.
Up and down 10 times, great. After you're done with those, we're gonna do toe raises. So again, everything's hanging onto the chair if you need it. Toe raises, you're just gonna lift your toes up
your
off the
toes
ground,
up.
keep your heels on the
Yeah,
ground.
lift your toes up. Lift these up. Your toes like this. Look, watch.
So
me.
you can, I don't know if you, I don't know if you have
Like
the
this.
front part of your foot as well, so you're really trying to get kind of the ball of your
Can you
foot
lift up
off
your-
of the ground as well. So you should feel this kind of in the front.
No,
of your
but
leg?
Pick your foot up off the floor.
This is a really important one
Yeah,
because
that's it.
again,
Yeah, you got
people,
it.
this is one of the changes in walking. A lot of times people drag their feet, they might have foot drop. So really strengthening these muscles help you get your feet up and clear those obstacles in the way. The next one we're gonna do is single leg balance. So again, please use that support surface if you need it. We're just gonna stand on one foot.
Hold up one leg.
If you feel like you can't do that, hold on. And you can just
See
shift
if
your
you can
weight to
leave it
one
up.
side and
See-
keep it, the
Don't
other
put it
foot on the
down.
ground,
Just
just
hold
less
it up.
weight. Even scaling that down even more, you
That's
could just
good.
lean to one side, your
Hold
foot's
on.
still in contact with the ground.
Don't be a hero.
And again, these are exercises that we would normally do with supervision, with a trained professional, but we're just kind of running you through them to give you a little bit of exposure to some things you could do at home if you feel safe doing them.
Some people like to stand like at the kitchen counter and hold on.
Yeah.
Exercise.
The next one we're gonna do is the side leg lift. So
Don't
again,
kick your knee.
holding on, don't kick your neighbor, yeah. So we're gonna work on the muscles on the side of the hip. You're just gonna go out to the side and back down. So this group of muscles right here is really important for stability and walking. When you're walking, you're standing on one foot. If these muscles aren't strong, you lean over to the side. Using these muscles pulls you up nice and straight. So it can help with that hip stability and balance when you're walking. If you haven't switched sides yet, you could do the other leg. Good, nice
You can be
control.
aware of your neighbors.
Nobody's gotten kicked yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm just a little
Yeah,
bit, so yeah, it might be good if you're with him.
Yeah.
And again, these are done in a, a group setting here, so you don't have that personalized touch, but with this, it's important to keep your foot pointed straight forward. If you're turning it outward, you're using more of the muscles in the front of your hip. You really want to isolate the muscles in the side of your hip, and you do that by keeping that foot straight forward. All right, so I think we got the legs a little tired there. Hopefully we're warmed up. The last thing we're gonna do is the sit to stands. So if you were in a gym setting, somebody would call these squats. We're gonna do it in our chairs. So we'll go back to our chairs, pull them away from the table so you have enough room to stand up.
Sit down, hon. Sit down. Okay, great.
All right, so once we get to our chairs, we can use your arms if you need to. Again, safety is the #1 priority here first, but we're just gonna sit down and then stand all the way up. Control yourself on the way down, reach back for those arm rests if you need it. Up and down, we're gonna do that 5 times in a row. So this is a really great exercise to build the strength in your lower body. If you're having difficulty with it, totally fine. Again, this just shows us, hey, there's work to be done.
Good, Howard, you're doing it.
If you do have difficulty normally
Okay,
standing up from a chair, strength is likely a factor, but we can also teach the proper way to get up.
you did it good.
Good. All right, excellent job, everybody. So the proper way to get up is having your feet underneath your center of mass. So basically close into the chair. So scooting forward in the chair, keeping your feet close under your body. And then it might feel a little bit awkward. And certainly if you have balance issues, this might feel a little bit scary, but you actually do want to lean forward a little bit. If you're too far back, when you try to stand up, your body's just going to go in the direction that you're leaning. And so if my feet are way in front of me and I try to stand up, I really can't do it. I got to use my arms. If my feet are under me, but I'm leaning back, I still have a hard time standing up. But if my feet are close in and I lean forward, I can just stand right up because everything's stacked right on top of each other.
Right.
All right.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk to you all a little bit about how our cognition, or what we call our higher level cognition, our executive function, can impact our falls risk. So this is just normal age-related brain changes. So not not dementia, but just kind of the way that it can be a little bit more challenging to do some of those higher level functions has actually been connected to the risk of falling. So what we call dual tasking, so doing 2 things at once. So a great example of that would be like I'm carrying my groceries and I'm walking and I'm talking to a family member. That's actually 3 things at once, right? So that's actually more challenging on our brain and increases our risk of falling. Problem solving is, it might become more challenging to problem solve in less familiar situations, right? So maybe I'm walking in a place that's not so familiar, this terrain is less familiar, and I'm less able to problem solve how to reduce that risk of falling to make sure this is a safe situation. And then attention to detail also decreases, right? So I might not notice that thing on the floor, or that the rug is slipped up a little bit and catch my toe on it. So, and then also just kind of recognizing that our medications or certain disease processes can also affect our thinking. And that, PT actually does a lot of work with that dual tasking. So helping your body to be able to do multiple things at one time. And then OT can actually work on improving your problem solving skills and your attention to detail skills to make the activities that you're doing each day safer. And then Dan's talked a lot about vision already, but I just wanted to share, things like macular degeneration, cataracts, diabetic retinopathy, can all impact our, obviously our vision. And that one seems sort of obvious, right? Like if you can't see it, you might trip on it, right? So, but also just remembering that our vision is 1/3 of our balance system. So, our balance system is made out of 3 things: our vision, our vestibular system, or our inner ear. We were talking about that as we came in today. And then a big fancy word no one has to remember, proprioception. So that's knowing where your body is in space. So do I know that my foot is on the step? Right? So if we don't have enough lighting, we've knocked out 1/3 of our balance system. So if we're getting up to go to the bathroom at night and we're not turning the lights on, and maybe we have a mild balance impairment or mild weakness in our legs, and then we take out another 1/3 of our system by not turning the lights on, that really impacts our risk of falling. So, and we'll talk some more about lighting today. Increasing contrast can be really helpful if you are having those age-related vision changes. So when we think about places in the home where the surface changes, but the color does not, right? So the edge of the tub is a great one to think about. It can be hard to see where that edge of the tub is. So putting like a bright piece of electrical tape on the edge of the tub can help you to be able to see how high do I need to lift my leg to clear the side of the tub. Or the stairs are another one, right? They're all the same color. So putting a bright piece of tape or painting the edge of each stair so that you can see where each one begins and ends. And then we're going to talk a lot about decreasing clutter today. Or we were actually on the way in, we were talking about how like kids and dogs can be trip hazards, but those are also folks in our homes that tend to, we have dog toys all over, or kids' toys if our grandkids have come over. So, but making sure that our walkways are clear. So that
restaurants have a fault with that. Cooper's, like the restaurant that's in, not Cooper's, in Northbrook, there's a restaurant that I meet friends a lot. And you can really hurt yourself because the steps, it's dark as
Yes.
you walk into the restaurant, and then the steps don't have a tape on it.
Yeah.
And like I'm looking at, there's only 2 steps, make sure that he's not gonna trip and fall on.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned it to them and they kind of look at me,
Yeah. And I've had that too, walking upstairs where, I'll not really realize I got one more step to go, and the same thing going down. So you
Yeah.
trip over going up, or you think you're about, you're done with the stairs,
Did that.
but there's one more. And that just,
Yeah.
if you aren't able to quickly react,
Yeah.
that can be a problem. So I do have to go. I'm leaving you in good hands with Sarah. I have some flyers. They're not specifically for this event. We did the Oak Park Chamber of Commerce Health and Wellness Fair, so we made some up. So I'll just leave some if anybody wants to take it specifically for my company.
And to
Just a
get in
little bit
touch
of
with
what we
you.
do.
by
Yeah, so you can
email
reach
or-
out,
yeah.
email or phone, yeah,
Okay.
and like I said, we're in network with Medicare
Okay.
Part B, so you don't have to be homebound, we can come to your home, it's
Yeah.
covered under Medicare, like just regular insurance, and then Blue Cross Blue Shield as well. All the supplementals, we don't have to be in network with, that just gets submitted
Okay.
anyway, so that's no problem.
Okay.
And then I do want to say just a little bit of a piece about exercise. So that's a big part of what physical therapy is. And I know it can be intimidating to start exercise because it feels like, you see all these people out there just doing crazy things, running, lifting heavy weights, just sweating like crazy in the gym. That's where physical therapy shines, because we can get someone that really has been sedentary, has never had any experience in their life at all, judge what's appropriate and build up from there. So really, everybody's got a place to start. There's nothing wrong with where you're at right now, but we just have to know how to appropriately progress you to get you
Wow.
stronger and more mobile and build up your endurance and
Well, and
everything
some of
like
the
that.
other things that you talked about that I've never heard that a physical therapist does,
Yeah.
I'd be interested in talking.
Right, and I love being in people's homes. I get to see exactly what you're doing. In a clinic, they might have a set of stairs in the corner that's got 5 stairs or whatever, but they don't have winders like in
19,
Oak Park,
yeah.
the little pie-shaped stairs. They don't have,
19
like loose
curved
carpeting or
stairs.
whatever. So, the home modification piece is really, Sarah's area of expertise, but I identify some of those things as well and then refer out to Sarah. I had one patient that, he had a walker that folded in half. It was like nice, you could put it in the trunk or whatever, but when he would go through narrow spaces, he liked to fold it up. So you go from having this much stability to this much stability, which resulted in having several falls. Well, every time he would go to the chair that he sat in, every single day, he had to fold it because his chair and the coffee table were too close together. I said, well, do you mind, can I move your chair back 3 inches. And he was a little reluctant, but he let me. And then was able just to cruise right through, sit down, no problem. Simple modifications like that. We just get into routines, you know, I mean, we do the same thing every day. It's your home. You don't think about changing things, you know, unless you're redecorating or something like that. And it's just like, you don't see a problem usually in what you do day to day. And that's where it's nice to have someone come in, a second set of eyes, and really kind of identify those things that are risk factor. Just because you haven't tripped over a rug yet, doesn't mean that you don't have the potential.
And in other people's houses too. My next door neighbor had a party for everybody in our condo association.
Yeah,
And I know her place because I've lived in that building for 30 years, but from her living room, all of a sudden there's this thing
oh,
that
yeah.
goes up
Yeah.
and people were tripping on
Right.
it like crazy because
that-
they didn't know it was there.
Right, that's a very common thing too, and I do have connections with people that do specifically home modifications, like not just recommending grab bars and things like that, but the construction people that will come out and do those things. So like a threshold that's really high,
They should
Big
they
tripping
should get rid
hazard.
of that,
yeah, so there's a lot of things. I have one patient that has Parkinson's, and they went as far as installing a second shower in their home on the first floor.
Whoa.
Because again, Oak Park, we have a lot of these homes that might not have a bathroom or at least a full bath on the first floor. And you gotta go upstairs or
Yeah.
downstairs to do
Yeah.
your business or shower every day or
Yeah, the
whatever.
bathrooms are, in all of our
Right.
older houses are
Yeah,
big on the
right.
first floor.
So the person that he worked with actually turned what was a closet into a walk-in
Cool.
curbless shower with
Cool.
a fold-down seat. So
Smart.
you know, it was obviously somewhat costly, but they worked with him to get the right materials, to get the cost of the whole project down and everything. And it changed his life because now he no longer has to go up and downstairs. And think about if you are now in a hospital bed on your first floor because you can't get up and down the stairs, if you're waking up groggy, feeling a little extra stiff, and now you gotta climb up or down a flight of stairs just to take your shower in the morning or go to the bathroom. So that's another thing that we both have connections to people that can do other things, and we know other therapists as well, speech therapists, feeding therapists, things like that. So just a quick plug for the other healthcare professional. So thank you guys so much for
Thank
letting me
you
come in
very
and
much.
chat with you.
Thank
Please
you.
reach out if you need anything, and I'm leaving you in good hands with Zera here.
Sorry, I just wanted to try to adjust a little bit because they said our slides weren't changing on the screen, so I just wanted to. Or on the Zoom. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about. No, they're not changing on our screen. Okay, so this is sort of my bread and butter as the OT is thinking about, we think about the environment and how that impacts the things that we need to do or want to do in a day. And so obviously home safety is a really big piece of that. And helping, preventing falls allows us to stay in our homes longer, to be able to do the things that we want to do in our days longer. And actually research shows that a few simple modifications, I love Dan's examples, actually does prevent falls. So I just wanted to share with you today a few of my favorite tips and tricks for preventing falls. So keeping things on lower shelves for years, 5 years probably, we had our favorite soup pot / popcorn pot like up on the highest shelf in the kitchen, and I would have to get the step stool out probably once a week. And finally I reorganized my kitchen, and it's in an easy place to just grab out of the cupboard now. And so just simple changes, which don't always feel simple when you have a lifetime's worth of kitchen supplies in your kitchen, but just doing a little kitchen reorganization can make a big difference. The kitchen is sort of a place where it's actually sort of a high risk activity, right? We're doing a lot of bending low or reaching high. There's potential spills, hazards. We're probably on our feet more in the kitchen than we are in other rooms of the house. So just a few simple changes like putting things on lower shelves can make a big difference. I also like to just say, if you use the soup, like maybe use a pan to warm up soup like almost every day for lunch, right? Maybe that can just live on the stove, right? Like, is it going to be the end of the world if it's out on the stove and then you don't have to be bending down into the cabinet to get it out? Double checking your step stool. If you do have to climb up to get things out of the cupboard, sometimes we have that stool that, we've had for years and years, or maybe it even was a hand-me-down from another family member and it's pretty rickety. Probably time for a new stool. They make some really nice lightweight stools now. I know like in the research and stuff, they recommend the big one that folds out and has the handle on it, but I know that can be kind of precarious, and I've talked to some of the PTs, and as long as it's sturdy, that's really what they're looking for. And then just making sure you clean up that spill right away so it doesn't become a false hazard, right? So I think it can be really easy if you spill a little water, but you want to get this task done, say like, oh, I'm going to come back to that. But then you kind of forget about it, you're getting busy, maybe you're trying to rush to get dinner on the table, and then you can slip on that water. So just being aware, conscientious, cleaning up things right away. Does anybody have any other tips or tricks or ideas for reducing falls in the kitchen?
Eat in a restaurant.
Another strategy, as long as it's a safe restaurant, right?
Yeah.
So the bedroom, there's probably two situations that I have heard the most from my clients about falls in the bedroom. And the first one is that slipping off the side of the bed, right? Like you're trying to get your shoes and socks on, you sit on the edge of the bed, and maybe you have that, well-loved mattress that's getting pretty squishy, and you can just kind of slide right off the edge there. So I usually recommend to my clients, get a nice sturdy chair, put it in the corner. That's a great place to get dressed in the morning. It's provides you a lot more stability than on the edge of the bed. And then the other one is one we talked about earlier, right? It's rushing to the bathroom at night, or maybe not even rushing, but the light wasn't on, and somehow a fall ensued. So it's really, really important that you've got that light next to the bed and some way to light that path to the bathroom, right? So probably like a night light, either depending on where your bathroom is, it might be in the hallway or maybe even in the bathroom, right? And if you're a person that really, you like it dark when you're trying to sleep, right? You don't want that night light on all night. You can actually get ones that are motion turn on by motion.
Yeah.
And so as you walk to the bathroom at night, they'll just turn right on for you. So I think that's a
that's
really
good.
neat option. Yeah. And then you're going to hear it again and again from me, but that reminder to pick up clutter, right? Like I think in the bedroom at night, sometimes we just toss our clothes on the floor, or, the bedrooms where we do a lot of our reading, our books or our newspapers might be on the floor, our shoes get kicked off there a lot. So just making sure that our walkways are clear. Anybody know anyone that's had a fall in the bedroom? Yeah. What happened?
I'm not sure. All of a sudden, he just was down.
Wow. Yeah.
I really don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of different factors, right? Could it be that orthostatic hypotension, if he was laying down all night, or, yeah, or is it a soft bed?
It's very hard for him to get up.
Yeah,
I actually had to call, 911 because I couldn't lift him up there.
right.
So that's for keeping up your strength.
Keeping up your strength, right? And sometimes some really simple modifications in the bedroom, like, you can get like a handrail, it slides under the mattress and it just goes right here. So you just have something to push up from and to steady yourself when you get up. So, there's a lot of different ways that we can mitigate that risk.
And carry a phone in case you do.
Yes.
So you have some means of communicating.
Right, and we'll talk a little bit more about some other options, but I like to remind folks too, like I've had folks where they fell one way and their phone fell the other. So making sure that phone, a lot of times we're wearing like those comfy pants and the pockets aren't really deep. So, maybe putting your phone, getting one of those lanyards that goes around your neck, or making sure it's in a pocket that zips up. But I recommend that for all my clients, like keep your phone on you. When you're around the house, when you're in the home alone, or consider getting like one of those life alert systems.
Yeah, little life alert systems are
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like it's carrying your umbrella so it won't rain.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right,
And there's
yeah.
so many options with the life alert systems now. There's ones that have GPS so that they, you know, you can get help if you fall in the community.
Right.
There's just a lot of different and we'll talk about some other technologies a little bit
Okay.
too. Again, bathroom, inherently risky place, right? We have all slippery surfaces and now we're adding water. So, high risk for falls in the bathroom. So, couple of my favorite tips and tricks for keeping the bathroom safe. I really can't believe how many of us don't have some sort of non-slip surface in the tub or the shower. So making sure that there's a rubber mat, or you can get those stickers that have the grippy and put them on there. But something to make that surface safer in the tub or the shower. You might choose to put in grab bars, right? Either next to the toilet or next to or in the shower. Some people like it kind of like just inside so they can hold on to it while they step in. That's something that OT can help you determine where's the best place to put them. And just a reminder that towel racks are not grab bars.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be in your hand. Now you've got, you know, a broken towel rack and possibly a broken self if you do fall.
Okay.
So if you find yourself reaching for that towel rack, that's a good indicator that, oh, I might need to think about installing a grab bar.
There, we put those in the shower. That really helps him a lot.
Great.
Yeah, and
That's
it took
great to
2
hear.
seconds for a handyman.
Right, it's not a challenging modification. I think some people get concerned about the look. There's actually
Looks
some
nice.
really nice
Looks
looking
nice,
ones
yeah.
out there. And they don't like decrease home value or anything like that. They probably increase your home value, and that people are like, oh, great, this bathroom's already adapted. I don't have to do that myself. And then you might think about, or actually don't think about, do. Make sure that your rug outside, you know, in the bathroom, you probably have some kind of a rug on the floor. I always recommend folks, they like go to the bathroom section of the store to get the ones with the rubber backing. Like my mom, she's like the throw rug queen. She loves the throw rugs. They're all over the house. None of them have rubber backing, including the one in the bathroom, and it's sliding all over the place.
And she doesn't listen to you,
No,
right?
of course not. No, or the sister-in-law who's had falls, who's also an RN, you know, but no. So, she doesn't feel she's old enough to need these things. But anyway, so please just make sure they have that rubber backing on them, so they're not sliding out on that tile floor. Any other, tips or tricks anyone recommends for in the bathroom? You know, there's a million different ideas. You can
you
change
covered
the
it.
surfaces. You know, just another reminder too, if you do have a life alert, they are waterproof and they're made to go in the shower.
Did you hear that? Yeah, he takes it off.
Yes, a lot. My grandmother did that and she ended up,
This life alert, you always take it off.
yeah, you need to wear it in the shower. Because that's a high risk area. So my grandmother, it's exactly what happened. She took it off, she took her shower, she fell, and then for like 3 hours, she was on the floor of the shower, like trying to get her neighbor's attention. So they're made exactly for that reason. So please do wear them.
You can wear it.
Another couple, tips and tricks, making sure your walkways are clear. So just like, so it might be clutter, right? So this might mean having a conversation with family, like I really need you to pick up the toys, or whatever. But also the furniture, right? So sometimes, you know, well, I couldn't not save my grandmother's cabinet or whatever, so our homes become a little full of furniture. But we need to make sure those walkways are clear so that we can walk straight. We're not having to do some kind of fancy shuffle, so we can use our assistive devices. Again, throw rugs anywhere in the house. I just say pick them up. Do you really need them, right? If you're my mother and you absolutely have to have them, then I recommend that double-sided tape to hold them down. And then again, making sure that you have good lighting. So it's not just for those bathroom runs where we need good lighting, but anytime we're walking around the house, right? So does that mean you need to replace some light bulbs or get some brighter light bulbs or install, maybe some floor lamps to make sure you're
The motion sensor is nice to have.
yeah.
They're really nice. Once you get that area, it turns on, but not a dim light, a brighter light, really.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Yeah, and so you could have them like in your hallway. So if you're going, maybe you like to, sit and watch your movie at night and then it's dark when you're heading to bed. It would just turn right on for you. All right, so I have a quick pop quiz for you all. There are 4 hazards in this kitchen. Does anyone see any of them? I don't know if the screen's big enough.
The rug for sure.
The rug, yes.
And that, whatever that green thing is on the floor.
Yeah, some kind of spill on the floor.
Yeah, and those cords.
The wires.
The wires,
yeah.
right? The wires, I feel like in our wireless world, our wire situation is actually worse, right? When we had them, when everything was connected to the wall, we would put them behind furniture, but now we're moving them all over. So being aware of your cell phone charger, your computer charger, making sure that they're not in your walkway, right? There's one more, it's a little harder to see. Kind of blends in there.
The cabinet door.
The cabinet door, that probably means my dad's been around. He's famous for leaving the cabinet doors.
I am too. I bumped my head so many times.
Oh, no, yeah, luckily I'm short enough that I don't bump my head on the top ones, but that one is like really easy to catch your hip on. And fall. So either way, they're definitely increasing our risk for falls.
Yeah,
So
it's bad.
trying to be conscious of closing those.
Knock
cabinet
yourself
doors.
out.
Yeah, please don't do that. So I did promise you that I would talk a little bit about how some technology can either help with falls prevention or more so, unfortunately, if a fall does happen, right? So a lot of times when I've talked to folks about like the life alert systems, or even like, what are you going to do when you do fall? Calling 911 or calling a neighbor or family member to come help, right, is kind of like that first step. And then they're like, well, how do they get into my house? So actually installing an electronic lock can reduce that concern, right? Because otherwise, if you're on the floor, they might have to break your door open, right? And then you've damage to your house and added expenses. But if you have, like, this is my door. And so this is like not connected to the internet or anything, but we can program up to 50 codes in there if we wanted like a different one for someone for temporary or something. But we just have one, and our family knows it. So if they need to get in, they can. If I did need to call 911, I could share it with the dispatcher so that the EMS could get in and they don't have to knock my door open. I also love it because I can go for a walk. I don't have to carry my keys. Like, it's such a
Yeah,
small thing, but it
great.
feels lovely. So, and then if, when my parents come visit, if they get there before I get home from work or something, they can let themselves in. So you can get really fancy ones that you can control from your cell phone or something like that. We kind of don't like to be that connected to the cloud. So we felt like this was a good middle ground for us. Does anybody have any of those smart speakers at home? You do? Do you have the Alexa?
We have all of the above.
All of the above, wow. Yeah, so, Alexa and the Google Nest are sort of game changers as far as being able to voice control things, right? So if you did have some people, instead of getting the life alert, they're like, you know what, I've got an Alexa, I'll just program that so that I can call 911 from there. So you could just say, hey, Alexa, call 911, or same thing with your Google Home speaker. Alexa does have like an added pay service if you want that, you can wear like a compatible device and it will actually, note if you fall and call 911 for you or call a family member. So that's sort of like their version of the life alert system. I also like Alexa because you can connect that to the lights. So then if you found that you've been sitting and watching TV or reading the paper and it's suddenly dark out and your house isn't lit and you could say, hey, Alexa, lights on. And then and then you don't have to worry about tripping, trying to get to the light switch, right? Another thing some of my folks have been doing, because I talk about, if you fall one way and that phone falls the other way, if you have an iPhone and you have Siri, you can change the settings so that you don't have to push the button to talk to Siri. You can just say, "Hey Siri." So you could change that, and then you can say, "Hey, call 911. I'm always worried somebody has it set on their phone and then we're calling. So lots of different ways that those everyday technologies many of us already have can increase our safety.
Do you find that the Apple Watch will really alert if you fall?
That depends on which Apple Watch you have. So like mine doesn't, I have like the cheapest one. But if you get the one that that has the falls detection, I guess have you had a problem with it?
Yeah, I have it, but it doesn't really work all the time.
Oh, okay.
It didn't detect his fall.
Oh,
either.
okay.
It should. you
It
know.
should, right, so that's good to know, like maybe.
It'll say, did you take a fall? And then you have to
Oh.
say, no.
Okay,
Okay.
but if you fall, it's not noticing it, oh gosh.
Oh,
I haven't fallen, but he has, and he has, an Apple Watch and
it doesn't
didn't.
work.
Okay, well maybe I'll take that out of this presentation then. It's supposed to, so, I don't know. I guess it's something to think
Or
about.
maybe only certain ones, so.
It is certain ones, but you have the one.
Yeah.
Maybe if you fall on a carpet, that sort of makes a
blocks
difference too. I don't know.
I have heard too that like it's not good for wheelchair users because it's like not far enough of a fall. So I think it's like, because it's an accelerometer, right? So if you're going down slow or you're not going down a certain distance, it's not recognizing it. So, the thing is, you can also set that Apple Watch to with Siri too, so you could use that to call 911 if you are on the ground. So but there are, I went through and I checked all these slides before this yesterday, and they all showed up with all the words. I don't know what's happening today. But you can also some people don't like the look of the life alert systems and stuff. So the companies have sort of recognized that people like the smartwatches. So there are some of the life alert medical alert watches out there now too.
Yeah, you know what the problem with it was?
What?
The band was too big
Yeah.
and his wrist is small, so it kept slipping off. So he has to wear the
Okay.
one around his neck
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
for fat people.
another option that's out there for folks, and I just kind of like to recognize that the future's here, right? The Dick Tracy watch
Yeah,
and the
that's
Knight Rider
funny.
watch is
That's
real now.
That's funny.
There's a lot of stuff where sci-fi has predicted. I guess we're not even
Yeah.
really sci-fi, but so we've talked a lot today already about how PT and OT can help, but this is just kind of that reminder, right? So Dan, the physical therapist, can help with strength and balance and mobilities that, everything from being able to get in and out of bed to walking around to your house, to both of us actually also work on community mobility, right? So being able to safely get to the places that you want to go, safely go to the restaurant, things like that, right? And so then my role as the OT is to think about how do we do the things that we need to do or want to do, right? So can we modify your home so that it's safer? Can we modify how you're doing something so that it's safer? And then again, I work a lot on that community mobility piece. So that's another reason why Dan and I really like our business models, where we go to your home, or we can even meet you someplace where you want to be able to do something. So, and then there's just our contact information. If anybody wants to reach out to us, you all have our cards as well. But does anybody have any questions or additional comments?
Very helpful.
Well, thank you all so much. I had a blast just chatting with you all. So thank you.
And the two of you work together?
Yeah, so we are separate businesses,
Yeah.
but we have a really nice working relationship where we kind of, they're our favorite referral source and things like that. We coordinate, we're, kind of also friends, so we'll, if we need to kind of coordinate, make a plan together for our clients, we can do that, so.
How did you come up with your name?
It takes a lot of
Well, that's what
moxie.
I'm thinking. that's
Yes,
why.
right, to age in place, to
Very
keep stay,
good, yeah.
to stay active as you age, that takes a lot of moxie. So, and
Clever.
I've been really impressed by how mobile you all are and active, and my parents are 71 and they rode their electric bikes like 40 miles the other day.
Whoa.
And, so it's really, like Dan was saying, it's really possible to stay active, and OT and PT can help guide that way for you.
Probably the people that needed it the most from our temple are
They're not,
here.
or what,
They're not
and
here.
I know,
Yeah.
I talked to some people trying to talk them to coming and they said, I wrote the book on it, I wrote the paper on it, yeah, but that was 15 years ago, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is sometimes we have to be ready for change, right? And so unfortunately, sometimes that takes a consequential
You have to
fall.
get a knock in the head, right?
Yeah. But if this resonates with anybody and you want to share information with other folks in your community, that we would appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that's good, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Who contacted you to do this? That was really good.
Dan reached out to me, so I think he was reaching out to local community organizations, and he
okay.
might have reached out to Mike. And Mike did say he wants this to be kind of an ongoing
That's
thing.
really good.
So, are there other topics or other sort of areas that you'd like us to specifically talk about?
I mean, you covered a lot of information.
This was a lot, and so I'm also kind of wondering if we could do a deep dive into some of this to one topic or something like that.
What really surprised me is like, when I started to do walking outside, people don't realize that there's just a little hill that doesn't bother a normal person,
You
but
okay?
somebody that's
Mhm. You okay?
handicapped, that little hill can make you fall.
Yeah, yeah,
And
That's
I'm,
right.
because I'd say, oh, there's a hill there, and they look at me like there's no hill to them.
Yeah,
To
right.
them, they think it's flat, but outside, it's
There's
just,
so many more, like,
there's so many more, just little dips.
little things in the sidewalk that
Right.
most people aren't noticing. Yeah,
And that's easy for us to trip on those things.
yeah,
And you hate to be constantly looking there, you wanna look at.
right. And that's like a hard balance, right? Because your PT will tell you, look ahead.
Right,
Well, right, and
honestly,
Howard
what's
looks
right in
down.
front of you.
Right,
I keep telling him to look up and he says he
Right.
doesn't want to trip on a cracked sidewalk.
exactly, right. Yeah, how do you find that balance? And I
You
think
look
the
down.
rollator, or like Dan was saying,
So you don't
a
trip.
walker with the wheels on the front can kind of help give us that information.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the roller because the roller is gonna move and that I know there's something.
Yeah, well. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for your
Oh,
time
thank you,
today. I had a blast, so
Yeah, it was good.
please, well, hopefully we'll be back to chat some more, but feel free to reach out
Okay,
anytime.
great,
There's
thank
a
you.
group, called the Star. It's a senior group that
Okay.
meets here.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah.
Except, are they meeting in person yet? They are? Yeah, it's
So-
called Star.
Okay,
It's for seniors.
can you write it down?
And that would actually be a perfect program, and a lot of people come to that.
And it's not just this group,
It's from the other
temple.
temple also, from Oak Park Temple.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
that would be good.
Star.
You can get that information from Charles, from the administrator, our executive director.
That is
That was
great.
good, that was good.